Alright, in this video I want to talk about how to edit this All Data tab for the spreadsheet that's organized by concepts, and that is, the CFA 1 here is given one time, just one day to the students, but there's 4 concepts that are hit on the on that CFA, and you can see for me it says polynomial multiplication, addition, and subtraction, and then this word combination to me just means a combination of adding, subtracting, multiplying. And so what I want to do is I want to edit the percentage below, the percentage approaching, and the percentage proficient for each one of these concepts. And it depends on the number of questions that each concept has. So the way that the spreadsheet is set up by default is if each one of these concepts only has 3 questions. I will say before we get going and I look at this, make sure that each concept at least has more than one question. For example, if polynomial multiplication on my CFA only had 1 question, then 0 out of 1 questions correct for a student would be considered below, and then 1 out of 1 questions correct for that student would be considered proficient, which makes this whole approaching category unnecessary. And you do want a stronger number of possibilities or a stronger number of problems for your students to try so you can get better data on them rather than just were you below or proficient? Did you get it or did you not? Because that's something we can notice in our class. We want to use the sheet to kind of notice some things for us that we don't always have time to notice or are able to notice during class. So let's talk about how to edit this. I'm going to start here. Now, I want to put here a percentage of students who are below for the concept polynomial multiplication. And since each of these concepts is set up to have 3 questions, below is considered 0 out of those 3 questions. So I'm going to start by typing the countif function. And notice the countif function, it's going to count a range of cells given a criteria for us. So the first thing I need to identify is the range of cells. So I go to the Teacher 1 tab, and polynomial multiplication is this range of cells. And notice it's saying that it's G7 through I14. That's because polynomial multiplication has these 3 columns associated with it. There's some merged cells. So the way that they call it is top left is G7 through bottom right, which is I14, which I'll be talking about. I'll be using that a lot today. So if that's the range of cells we're looking at, the criteria for below is 0. And we can see that there's 2 zeros in this range of cells. So I'm going to put a 0, and we should get, the number 2 in that cell, and we do. And then here, for approaching, this is the same countif function. And it's the same range of cells. So I hit Teacher 1, and then same range of cells, but the criteria here is different. I'm going to have the criteria be 1. So this is the number of students who got 1 correct. And I hit Enter. And we can see that that is 4. And if I go back, we can count the number of 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what we consider to be proficient. But since there's 3 problems attached to this concept, I also consider 2 questions to be proficient. So I want to go up here and I want to add the same exact function, but I want the criteria to be 2. So I hit Enter. And then, honestly, I can take these functions, if I copy them, well, I'll keep rewriting them. That'll be easier. So this is going to be for proficient, it's going to be the countif function. The same range of cells, so I go to the Teacher 1 tab, scroll through this information, but now my criteria is 3. And there's only 1 of those down right here. So I should get the number 1 that pops up. So each of these 3 things are not a percentage. These are the number of students who got this, who got below, who got approaching, who got proficient. So I need to make this a fraction. I'm going to take this and put it in parentheses, and I'm going to say, hey, that's the numerator of my fraction. The denominator of my fraction is going to be the sum of count if for 0, 1, 2, 3. That is the number of students who got, all of the different possible number of answers correct. So in the denominator I put this, and I'm going to put the denominator in parentheses. The number of students who got, copy and paste it again, 0 correct and then 1 correct, comma, the number of students who got 2 correct, and then lastly, in my last case, is the number of students who got 3 correct. And this is the denominator of my fraction, so I close all of my parentheses. That's the sum parentheses, and that's my last one. And notice I get an actual fraction out, 0.25. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this little part of the formula, and I'm going to paste it here. Make that one a percentage. And you got to be careful. You got to put your parentheses or your numerator in parentheses. There we go. And then I'm going to put my numerator here in parentheses. Put my fraction bar and divide by the same thing I did over there. And so now I get my 3 percentages, but I don't like them in this form. I'd rather them be in the form where in a whole number form. So I'm going to multiply them by 100. So I'm going to put another set of parentheses. I might overuse parentheses, but I'm cautious. So for each of these, I'm going to put a new set of parentheses multiplied by 100. Keep going. New set of parentheses multiplied by 100. And now I have this. And if I don't want them to be decimals at all, I'd rather them be rounded numbers, then I can put the round function on the outside, and this is where I'll end my function. And at the end, put a comma 0, stating I want to round it to the nearest whole number, 0 decimal places. So I do that for each of these. And then this one as well. All right. And these are my 3 functions. So this is for polynomial multiplication. But if you notice, there are 3 different other categories, all with 3 different other ranges. For example, addition is this JK and L column. So the way that you would call this is top left is J7 through L, where it ends, L14. So I need, for the polynomial addition, I need to take these 3 formulas, these 3 functions, and change that part. I need to change these inputs right here to the other range of cells. That is not from G to I, but from J to L. And so that's what this next part is I am taking all of these 3 functions. First, if I replace all of the equal signs with pound symbols, what it allows me to do is take these 3 functions and copy and paste them without changing the function's arguments. So that's what I do to kind of get around that. But then I want to take, for addition, for polynomial addition, I want to find everywhere it says G7 through I14, G7 through I14, and I want to replace it with what we said was J7 through L14. And I hit replace all. And it makes those replacements for us. Then for subtraction, that's from M7 to O14. So from M7 to O14, so for subtraction here, I want to change all of those ranges to that. So fine, replace with M7 through O14, replace all. And then, lastly, for the combination part, I need to go to find out the range of cells for that. It's from P7 to R14, so that's what I'm going to change that to. So this changes to P7 through R14. Replace all. And now, just check, make sure that my functions work. If I find all of my double pound symbols, replace them with equal signs, I see that my functions work. So now I want to copy and paste these to teacher 2, teacher 3, teacher 4, teacher 5, but again, I don't want Excel to edit that part. So now I'm going to replace all of my equal signs again with pound symbols. That was just to check to make sure they work. And then I'm going to copy and paste this information to teacher 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now for teacher 2, notice that these functions say, and if I just pick any one, all of the ranges of information are right, because teacher 1 for, let me get rid of this, for multiplication and addition and subtraction, it's the same range of cells, G through I, J through L for addition. For every teacher, they have that same range of cells. The difference is the tab name. You know, for teacher 1, it's under teacher 1. For teacher 2, it's under teacher 2. So I'm going to go and replace all of these. The ranges of cells are good except for where it says teacher 1. So I need to find and replace everywhere it says teacher 1. I need it to now say teacher 2 since we're under a different tab. So I replace all. And I do that for each of these teachers. For teacher 3, I don't want to say teacher 1, I want it to say teacher 3. And then that's kind of the concept. So I'll change it for all of these teachers here. Teacher 4, replace all. Teacher 5, replace all. And now each of these functions should work properly. So I'm going to replace all of the pound symbols with equal signs. And this is where I will have my fully edited all data tab. So there it is. The first time you work through it, it is awkward, it is strange. Actually, these need to be up here. It is tough if you don't typically work with Excel. However, I'm hoping this video will help because the first time that you get it set up is always the toughest, and then setting up each CFA afterwards is always, you know, you understand the functions a little bit better, kind of the syntax a little bit better, or it's just a clever process of copying and pasting from things you've already set up. So I hope this video helps, and that's all I got.